Good evening, and welcome to tonight's TI Technology webinar hosted by Texas Instruments, where tonight we're going to learn a little more about club and camp ideas, focusing on STEM. My name is Mike Houston, and I'm the moderator for this event. I teach algebra and calculus near Pittsburgh, where I use TI Technology to make tough-to-teach, tough-to-learn concepts accessible to all my students. Today I'm really excited to be joined by our two panelists, Stacy Thibodeau and Eric Archer. Stacy holds Bachelor's of Science in Biology and Chemistry and a Master's degree in Educational Leadership from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. She's been in the science classroom for 17 years and currently teaches at Southside High School in Youngsville, Louisiana, where she teaches all levels of biology. She has also taught biomedical science courses in Project Lead the Way and all sorts of chemistry courses. She uses TI Technology to assist her teaching, data collection, and modeling math concepts, linking them to science content. Stacy, so great to have you with us tonight.
Great to be here, Mike. Thank you.
And Eric is the Market Strategy Manager for the Worldwide Science and STEM Education Markets at Texas Instruments. He continues to lead the efforts for the development of content-based STEM programs, such as STEM Behind Hollywood and STEM Behind Health. Eric, we're excited to have you with us tonight.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks, Mike.
We're expecting a large crowd, so your audio is muted. Feel free at any time to send any questions to Stacy or Eric using the Q&A window on the right side of your screen. We'll also be using the chat window to send general messages. As a reminder, this session is being recorded, and we'll provide a link to the event certificate of attendance at the conclusion of the webinar. We hope you don't have any audio issues, but in the event that you do, you can try one of two things. Try selecting Communicate in the WebEx menu and choose Audio Broadcast. If that doesn't help, find your name in the participant window and locate the icon. It looks like a phone. And by clicking that icon, you'll get call-in information, and you can switch from the audio broadcast to using a phone. At this point, Eric is going to discuss our agenda.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Thanks, everyone, for being on the webinar here. We appreciate your time. I think you're going to like this one. So one of the first things we're going to talk about is what are STEM camps and clubs, and some examples of those things. So things like after school or before school, summertime, after exam season, which is coming up here pretty soon. So Stacy's going to lead most of that. And then we'll also talk about STEM activities, so things that may not necessarily be a camp or a club, but things you can do with your kids in a class period, maybe a couple of class periods, things that are available on the TI website, and we'll both talk some more about that in a little while. And then next steps, so this is going to be about how do you get access to these materials. We have a lot of exciting new materials that are coming online a little bit at a time, and I want to show you where you can find those toward the end of the webinar. So thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Eric. Stacy, you have control. It's all yours. Feel free to share your screen.
So like was mentioned in the initial setup, I do teach high school. I teach in South Louisiana. My background initially was biology and chemistry. And when I was introduced to the coding aspect of the classroom and working with students, I was like, no way, I'm a biology teacher, I don't know how to do that, and actually learned how to code alongside with students. I took a Fortran programming class a long time ago, and hopefully by using the TI technology and the coding type activities that are there, you will be able to become a programmer and work with your students. So there was a blog on one of the TI sites. It was from the president of the education division, Dr. Peter Belita, and he actually talked about how to get students involved and what to do, kind of some tips. And so I included those in the presentation, and just kind of want to share that with you guys. The main thing is that we definitely want to start with some kind of real world problem. And I do that. I have a STEM club at my school. I had some STEM camps last summer. I met with a couple of Saturdays, and then I also have another STEM camp coming this summer. So we want to start with some kind of real world problem. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but just something to get them started. Involve other people from the campus, either that you're teaching at, that you're working at. Get community partners, people from the district involved, and I'll show you some of the things and talk about what I did to be involved with these students. The more that you can advocate either for yourself and what your students are learning, the better it is for you. Obviously, we want to get the students doing the hands-on right away and teach the content as it goes along. Not necessarily do I want to say, hey, today, guys, we're going to talk about system of equations, but do the activity and then bring the concepts into light. The biggest one for me is plan for students to move at different paces. I actually think of this as organized chaos. My classroom is organized chaos. It is worse when we code. If you have, 8 to 10 groups or partners with students, they're going to have 8 to 10 different problems all at different times. So you kind of have to give a little leeway for yourself if you are a person that likes a lot of control, and just allow the students to explore. And then lastly, share your work. I'm a big advocate for sharing everything that I do. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I even Snapchat, and everything I do with my students, I really try to promote. I'm a big advocate for what students are doing in the classroom, not necessarily about me, but they need that advocate, and the more that we can promote what those kids are actually doing in the classroom, the better. So like I mentioned, last summer I was approached by our Gear Up coordinator after she went to TQ's International Conference last year in Chicago to put on a STEM camp, and we had no idea what we were doing. She was just excited and I was excited, and so we had 3 days planned, really not knowing what to do. So the first day, we actually spent time just introducing the students, first of all, to the handhelds. My district bought Inspires for the math and science teachers in high school, and we're actually now implementing them in 8th grade. So we were not 84 CE users. I know that some people might be dual platform, and Eric and I can speak to both, but my district was Inspire users. And so I first had to teach a lot of these students how to use Inspires for programming, what were the keys and that kind of stuff. And then we just really played around with them and did the activities in the 10 minutes of code for the Innovator. And Eric and I will show you guys this later if you don't know where they are. It really introduced the students to what is a programming language, how do you follow a series of steps, and I tried to help them understand what it meant in layman's terms. And so if I'm doing a line of code, what does it actually mean that the handheld's doing, and what is it telling the Innovator? The second day of the camp, we dove more into it, but we also had a partnership with Lafayette Parish Science Leaders. That's the blonde lady, Ms. Suzanne Prince. And then we had an outside agency called CGI that is a big advocate for students, and they actually had all of their student interns come and work side by side with our students. They were given a set of Inspires and Innovators about 3 weeks before the camp, and play with them and learn how to do it. And so it helped me a lot that I didn't have to be the one to go to all 8 to 10 partners to figure it all out. So I just kind of included a little picture showing that. And then the last day, I actually gave them a challenge. Throughout the first 2 days, it really was 10 minutes of code, just getting them to practice. Third day, I introduced them to engineering design. A lot of the students in this Gear Up program had been through some of the engineering programs that Gear Up offered. So because of that, they kind of had an idea. And I'm going to show you some of the activities that TI actually has through science through engineering design. And what they had to do was to design basically a rover, a hoist to pick up a rover from the sea floor. They also had to use the limited materials that were given in the classroom, and then they had to present to their parents, community partners, and all of the CGI staff that came that day. So it was a huge success. We're repeating it again this coming summer, but it's going to be a 5-day, and I'll kind of talk to you guys about some of the activities that we have for that. So that was last summer. I was given the opportunity to have another day with them. So the materials that I used, I'm sorry guys, the materials that I used were the 10 minutes of code, and like I said, Eric and I will show you. I did hyperlink everything in here, so if you click on the picture, it'll bring you straight to the 10 minutes of code, and it's for the actual Innovator Hub. It shows you that you can have either the Inspire or the 84C, and like I said, we're an Inspire district. So I tried to make it as easy, friendly for you. That way you had all your resources. Science through engineering design, or there's 3 different activities that are tried and true, designed for students to use who aren't necessarily experts at coding, but want the second half of the STEM part of the engineering part. And so these 3 activities all are designed to use the Innovator Hub with given code, but there's an engineering component to learn how to use the hub with its attachments or accessories, any of the in or out ports. And so we did that. This was the actual activity that I had the students do. It's called Exploring the Depths Through Uniform Motion. The materials were very inexpensive. I actually asked the students to bring in empty water bottles or empty Gatorade bottles to use for the actual hoist right here. I got myself some string and some magnets, and then we had a magnet on the floor. The batteries and the hub and the calculators I actually had. And so they were actually able to build this and then present their information to their parents. We were able to meet on a Saturday, so exciting that I had an opportunity to meet with them again, and it was in October. I didn't want to do a repeat. I did have some new students that came that didn't come to the initial camp, so I kind of had to catch up with some of them. And since it was in October, I wanted to do something fun and exciting, and who doesn't love zombies, right? So I did the zombie activity. If you have been around TI long enough, the zombie activity has always been a hit. Oh, of course I can't find it. Oh, it's right here. Zombie activity has always been a hit. As a life science teacher, I kind of threw a little life science and talked about the brain. With them, we built a model of the brain out of clay. We learned about the different parts of the brain and what zombies actually are having issues with. And then we took that information and built a zombie alarm system and a trap door that the zombies would fall through, all using the Innovators. So that was extremely fun for the students. They had a great time doing that and actually learned a lot about the human anatomy, and at the same time, like I said, continued with the whole zombie, I guess the zombie part of it was extremely interesting for them. We had wanted to try to get them to come dressed, but no students came dressed as zombies or characters from The Walking Dead. I did not, but I did have some fake blood and kind of put it on my lip. And anyway, they had a great time doing that. And again, this was all free of charge to them. There was absolutely nothing that they had to bring or do. I provided all of the activities, and then because it was Gear Up, we were able to give them T-shirts and kind of door prizes and stuff. So I'm going to build upon that for this coming summer. I do teach at a brand new high school in Lafayette Parish. It's called Southside High School. It's a traditional high school. It will be 9 through 12. We'll probably be 1,200 to 1,500 students. Lafayette Parish is growing rapidly, and they needed a new high school. So it being a traditional high school, I felt the need for, I guess, a specialty program like a STEM club. The previous school I was at was actually a STEM school, STEM Magnet Academy. So I had a lot of expertise with that. So I started a STEM club. It started out with about, I don't know, 5 to 6 kids that I taught. They were like, hey, we'll go hang out with Ms. Tibb for an afternoon once a week. And it has grown to about 20 to 25 students depending on what's going on. I have both, we're just 9th and 10th grade right now. Well, we're going to add students as we go. So I have both freshmen and sophomores, so students that I teach or not teach. And I did the same exact thing with them that I did with the camp. I started with the 10 minutes of code. We went through, we practiced, and then I would give them problems to solve within there. Then I added some of the science to engineering design activities with them, and they were learning engineering design. Then we started, which are called the Path to STEM projects. Path to STEM projects takes into account that you can add accessories or additional pieces to the hub that can build upon more projects. So we were able to build a speaker. We actually created a thermal mat for a lizard. Again, so this is all student projects. These are not Stacy Thibodeau teacher-driven projects. And so because the students were able to create these projects using what TI has, they wrote the code, they did the design, but as the teacher who's not the computer programmer, I had a backup. I had information that was tried and true with others so that I was able to feel confident doing this. Am I an excellent programmer? Absolutely not. But I learned by doing this with the students. I'm able to explain to the students what it means in layman's terms. Do I think that all students are going to become programmers? Yes, sorry.
Oh, no, I just want to interrupt you real quick. I don't want to lose that point. I am also not a programmer. I'm a biology guy that's learning how to program. What was your background as far as computer science is concerned?
I took one Fortran programming class in college. That was it.
In a sense. So that's the point, right? That these resources make it much easier to learn how to program on the TI devices. And I just want to intervene on that point to say that we're not trying to say that students are going to go out into the world and use TI Basic in their real world jobs. That's not going to happen. We are saying that TI Basic, which is available on that Inspire and at TI-84 plus CE, in fact, TI Basic is available on all the TI graphing calculators. It's just a good on-ramp to get them ready for more sophisticated computer science languages, if that's what they want to do in the real world. So I like TI Basic because the syntax is easier to understand. I kind of know what's going on more so than I would in like a Python or a C or a Java. But it's also not the drag and drop simplicity of like the Lego stuff or the Scratch. It's kind of an in-between. It's a good way to get new students ready for coding, and that's what I like about it. So sorry to interrupt you, Stacey. I just wanted to make that point.
No, thank you.
Yep.
I guess, and Eric pointed out that we don't expect all of our students to become computer programmers, but the logic and the problem solving that the students are learning because of the programming is more important than everybody becoming computer scientists. Again, like I said, I have freshmen and sophomores. These students have been only exposed to minimal math classes and minimal science classes. We have no engineering students. And because of the things that they're learning through this STEM club, we meet once a week. I can only meet with them for an hour. I have little kids I have to pick up. I'm going to show you a project they did. This is called the Automatic Dispenser Project. And so they were given the problem of doing things like the automatic dispensers that dispense the paper towels in the bathroom or the hand sanitizer. I don't have sophisticated materials like that, but I did have cardboard, and I did have some little letters that my daughter used when we made crafts for Girl Scouts. So I brought that to campus, and I had a hot glue gun, and I gave them the materials that you could purchase that were the input-output sensors. So there's the Innovator Hub. They had to have an external battery because we plugged in a servo motor to it. And then we had a light sensor. So the light sensor picked up on the fact that a hand was there or not. Based on if a hand was there, it's going to dispense whatever. And that's all I told them. I said, you have to build an automatic dispenser. I divided the students and let them choose what group they were in. I needed a programming group. I needed an electronics group that had to design this part, figure it all out. They had to communicate with the programming group. And then I had an engineering design group that had to come up with the design, build it, and work with the other two to make sure everything fit. I am not an engineer by trade. I'm a biologist. I am a chemist. And these kids wowed me. I want to show you a little video that they did. It's nothing fancy. These kids were so excited with their product. So he puts his hand and it dispenses. He did exactly what I asked him to do. Now, you know, there's some hang-ups with the size of the funnel they had, but these are high school sophomores and freshmen, no engineering background, no formal engineering training, that about a month ago were able to do kind of a complex situation, complex problem that was given to them. And under guidance, obviously I'm going to guide them, but there were no instructions. I didn't tell them the code. I didn't give them a worksheet and said, fill this out. And I meet with them on Mondays, and I met with them yesterday, and their question was, what's our next project? They want more. So that is available. I do have a handout for it that we put together. We worked with some teachers at a workshop session, so that is linked here for you if you were interested in the dispenser project. I did include that. It's a hyperlink. So this summer, with my camp that I'm doing, I'm thinking more of this whole STEM and wanting to introduce all students that no matter what they're taking to STEM. I truly believe that the S and the E are there for a reason, and the T and the E are the way to get to the S and the M. And so the science concepts will come and the mathematics applications by using the technology. We have TI technology, and then adding the engineering component because students are so inquisitive. So science-inspired activities on the TI website. I have a hyperlink to it. There's an activity. You're looking at the freezing point of water and the melting point of ice. It's a Vernier sensor activity. A temperature probe plugs in to the handheld, and you're looking at the melting point and the freezing point. Big deal. Perfect for an introductory physical science class, chemistry class. Great activity to introduce them to data collection. What does this mean? Add the math in for a slope or a change in temperature, all of that, great teachable moments. So I want to add a twist to it. I want to add a twist on why cups built around this information. And so what I'm going to have the students then determine, given the temperature probe, they're going to have a variety of different materials. I'm going to give them different metals, like aluminum foil, copper foil that I have, the extra pieces from roofings, styrofoam, extra plastic, bubble wrap, cotton. We're going to try in a glass cylinder that I have, egg cartons, wool, whatever materials that I can get my hands on. They're going to do this same exact activity. They're going to put it into an ice water bath, insulate it, and determine which one actually is a better insulator. And I don't know, who knows? We might come up with a better patent than what maybe Yeti Cup has, or just to give them that aha moment, that inquisitive moment, and using the technology, that the handheld and a sensor. And so I wanted to add this into my STEM camp because there are some kids out there who are really scared about programming. There are teachers, there are adults that are scared. And so a lot of teachers and students are comfortable with math-inspired and science-inspired activities. And if we can start a camp or work with teachers that are comfortable with this part of the technology and then bring them into, okay, so how did this design work? And so how did this company build this cup? So anyway, that's kind of my goal for next summer. I have a session at the NSTA STEM Forum that's coming up in July over in Philly that I'm going to actually do this with. I'm going to do it with my kids before I head out there. But I'm really excited about that. Like I said, I do teach a biology class. I am an end-of-course test teacher. I have a high-stakes test, which is in 2 weeks. And after testing, I am going to work with my actual biology students on some of the projects that Eric's going to mention and talk to you guys about. They're excited. They're excited to finally have something to look forward to as far as problem solving. So much of what we do, and I say we, all of us as teachers, I feel that we're so content focused because we have this test that we have to make sure they pass. And so hopefully this will give them opportunity to have a little fun with science. So that's kind of what I have done with my STEM club, my camps, and then where I'm headed with my students this school year.
Okay, Stacy, let's see.
Yeah.
So you want to pass that ball over to me?
I sure can, Eric.
All right. And then I'll talk a little bit about some of the resources as well as these 4 camps and clubs that we currently have available to folks. Let's see. Now I got to figure out how to share again. All right.
Hey, Eric, if you just move near the top where there's File and Edit, there's also Share.
Oh, there it is. Yep, I got it. Thank you. All right, hopefully everybody can see what I'm seeing now. All right, a couple things before I get rolling. I just want to talk about from Stacy's presentation. So we meaning TI, we're kind of figuring this whole thing out still. TI is part of a TI Education Technology is part of a bigger corporation. Texas Instruments makes many of the chips that go on your cell phones and your computers, your tablets, the navigation systems in your automobiles. We have chips in everything. A lot of folks that don't know TI, EdTech, don't necessarily know that because we're more known for our graphing calculators and our scientific calculators than our chips. And that's because we only sell to other companies typically, chip-wise. But the reality is our company is looking for students, looking for employees that know how to code. They can become engineers, electrical engineers, mechanical, chemical. We're looking for all kinds of engineers as well as programmers and problem solvers. And man, it's on short supply. And so we're trying to find problem solvers from anywhere we can find them. And so the reality is your students have an opportunity to be, next generations of problem solvers. And you can kind of start them off by giving them a little taste of coding, a little taste of some of the engineering projects that Stacy has shared with you. And I know you all know this, but it's important to just repeat it over and over again, just to let them know that big companies like TI, Motorola, Apple, Google, they're all looking for STEM problem solvers. And so, in my opinion, I think this is a great entry point for students to become aware that those careers are even possible for them. So I don't mean to evangelize, but I just wanted to make that point. Stacy got me all fired up here. So with that, let me jump in here. So hopefully you can see my screen. I'm on the TI website, the TI Education Technology website. It's called TI Codes. You can Google this, just Google TI Codes, and this link will pop up. And on this site are the resources that Stacy mentioned. We support coding through the TI-84 Plus CE or TI-84 Plus family, as well as TI-Nspire. So most of the classrooms still use TI-84, so I'll go into this entry point. But the reality is, it doesn't matter what platform you're using. You can do it Nspire or you can do it 84. Now, there's two different flavors for TI, or 10 minutes of code. And quick background on 10 minutes of code. What that means is we kind of took a play out of the Hour of Code, which you can Google that too. Hour of Code is a free resource for kids and anybody really to learn how to code, and they have these little lessons in hour snippets. But we know the reality of the classroom. We know that most math and science and STEM teachers don't have an hour to give up. So we try to break the snippets down even further into 10 minutes. And so at the end of your math class or your science class, if you have 10 minutes, you can pop up on the screen these little resources and show the kids. I'm going to start with just the non-Innovator version. This is just the straight up calculator version. There's no Innovator, there's nothing else plugged in here. So you start the kids off with these, what we call skill builders, and then you just go step by step. Now every one of these steps has a screenshot. This is just how to start a new program on the calculator. And you can go through these one at a time with the kids and just take them a little bit at a time. So look, if you have 2 or 3 class periods per week where you're able to do this, you're at least giving those kids an opportunity to become familiar, become aware with the coding world. Now I'm going to jump into the Innovator piece. So look here. So there's 10 minutes of code by itself, just with a calculator, and then we have a 10 minutes of code with the TI-Innovator technology. And many of the projects that Stacy shared with you, that's where she started, with 10 minutes of code with TI-Innovator. So I'm going to jump in here. And again, 84 or Nspire. Now I will say this, just a point of clarification. So with the Innovator, you can't just use any old TI-84. It is required that you have the TI-84 Plus CE. It's just the technology's newer. We're able to interface with the Innovator. So although you can use any 84 with the 10 minutes of code, without the Innovator, you have to have the TI-84 Plus CE or the TI-Nspire CX to use the Innovator. Now, of course, you can borrow Innovators from our workshop loan program as they're available. You just, want to get that request in, ahead of time. But it's the same kind of idea. You don't have to know any coding to start this with your kids. You just go step by step. There are screenshots. This goes over what some of the commands are. Name your program, step by step by step, okay? So that's what this is. All right, here we go. So so now most of you are probably already familiar with 10 minutes of code, but just in case, I wanted to make sure you knew about that. Now there's one more piece to this that we just added this year. So TI released a new product called the TI-Innovator Rover. The Rover is it's like a little robotic vehicle. I'm just going to Google it here for you, Rover. And you can see a picture over here. So if you haven't seen this yet, it's pretty slick. It's got a little ranger so it can see through sound. You put your handheld up here, connects to the TI-Innovator Hub through the back end. And there's little videos in here and little resources. But let's say you've never used it before, and you just got one, or you borrowed one from Wallop or the Workshop Loan Program. You can go and do 10 minutes of code with the TI-Innovator, and now there's Rover options here as well that teaches some of the Rover-specific commands. And you do not need to be a programmer to use Rover. The syntax is so simple, your kids will get it right away. You'll want to check that out. And again, you can borrow this stuff before you make an investment through the TI Workshop Loan Program as it's available you got to get your request in early. Okay, so there's that. Something else Stacy mentioned was the TI-Inspire website. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be a science teacher. If you're doing a STEM camp over the summer, and let's say you don't want to do any coding, you're not ready for coding, there are still some really cool things you can do with your kids using sensors with your TI graphing calculators instead. Now, if you go to TI-Inspired.com, you'll find this website. There are different subject areas here. These are all science specific, but like I said, if you're doing a summer camp, you're not necessarily on the hook for science standards. You're just going to have the kids do some data collection activities. But in most of these categories, there is a data collection option. And so here there's watershed testing. So the kids are going to use some Vernier sensors. And again, those are also available through a wallet through the workshop loan program. But you can do water quality tests with the dissolved oxygen sensor, temperature, pH, and a system called total dissolved solids, okay, which is a calculation. And so these are available on the website for free. They've been there for a long time, but you know, a lot of folks may not be aware of them. You can go to just about any one of these subject areas. You're going to find some data collection options in ecology. Those of you that live or work, rather, near a body of water, I recommend getting the kids out and having them test water quality. It's a lot of fun for them. They may not realize all the things that are available to them. There are also simulations in these science-inspired files that kind of give them a visualization of what's happening. For example, this too hot or too cold talks about the effect of environmental temperature on the metabolism of animals that are endothermic or ectothermic. So, you know, there's just a lot of rich resources that are here if you're not ready for the coding piece yet. Now, Stacy also showed you something that I think is pretty cool, and it's around the TI-Innovator. So what she did with her kids is she took them through one day of TI codes, 10 minutes of code stuff, and then she took them into this science through engineering design. Now, this is all available on the website. It's all free. And she had them do an activity called Exploring the Depths with Uniform Motion. Now, at the beginning of the presentation, you may recall Stacy talking about how teaching around events is way more meaningful to kids as opposed to the concepts directly. So what do I mean by that? Well, teaching the kids through some kind of storyline or some kind of phenomenon, talking about that phenomenon, and then all the mechanisms behind that phenomenon is more meaningful than just talking about rotational motion, for example. It's, you know, it's concepts and context. And so Exploring the Depths tells a story about a fictitious character that lost an underwater rover, and they're trying to recover it because it's a huge investment. And to recover it, they have to build a pulley system, a hoist, if you will. And to do that, they can use the TI-Innovator with the calculator. Now, the irony here is there is no coding in these activities. The kids are not coding. These are a soft introduction to getting the kids to use an external piece of hardware, the Innovator, and so it's a nice transition into more complicated things. So Stacy's approach was, I'm going to get them to do the 10 minutes of code, and then I'm going to get them to do these activities using the Innovator. And then her follow-up step was having the kids combine using hardware in the Innovator with coding. So you have a lot of entry points. You have a lot of options available to you from the TI website and just your own imagination. But I thought that was pretty cool. Now, one of my favorite things, this is just an aside, these two activities are pretty cool. One small bite for man, one giant leaf for mankind, okay? So any Apollo fans from the NASA program, Apollo program, you guys will get that joke. But this one talks about cellular respiration, and this one talks about photosynthesis, in the context of a Journey to Mars mission, which is a timely thing to talk about with kids these days. It's always in the news, so it's a lot of fun. Okay, so a little bit about 10 minutes of code. I talked a little bit about the science or engineering design lessons. Like I said, those are all available on the TI website. Next thing I want to do is get you into to show you some of these other projects that we have. And I've got so much stuff open, you'll have to forgive me. I'm a little scattered here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so over the last year or so, and those of you that were able to attend the T-Cube conference earlier this year, and you were able to go to the STEM room, you probably already saw these projects, but I want to show them to everybody here to remind you or to show you for the first time. What we've done is we've created 4 projects that are available. The curriculum's available for them. You can modify them as you wish. They involve some very basic, simple, light coding, and I'm going to show you some code snippets here in a second, with the hardware, so the TI-Innovator, and then some little external sensors here. There's one of them in the picture. Hopefully you can see that, that you can plug into the Innovator Hub. So Stacy showed the candy dispenser. The candy dispenser used a light sensor, and you remember the kid moving his hand back and forth to kind of cover up that sensor. And when the light level got down to a certain point, a servo motor released some of the candy. And so, so that was kind of a cool project. This one works much the same way. And so I'm going to play this little video here for you. All right, let me back it up a little bit. So what we have here, let me pause it. We have the Innovator Hub. We've got a little Barbie car. You can get these online or at Walmart, or you can have the kids make their own with a plastic shoebox or a cardboard shoebox. We've got a little sensor here with, you can see the red light on. This is called a Hall sensor. I think it's about a $3 or $4 sensor, and it picks up magnetic field changes. I've got a little plastic dog with some magnets glued to his feet. I realize how inhumane that sounds, but the point here was to talk about a real animal being left in a hot car in a parking lot. All right, there's a phenomenon there. It's an unfortunate one, but it's an event that does happen, and we try to figure out a solution to it. So we challenge the kids to come up with their own solution using a combination of coding and external sensors and motors. So this is cool because the little dog you might have, a real dog or a real cat might have a magnet on their collar, or maybe they're wearing a little strap around their paw with the magnet on it, but something that lets the car know that that animal is still in the car. So the first condition is the animal here? Okay, well, the little light tells us that yes, the car senses the animal, okay? And so that's just to show you what's going on there. I'm going to keep playing this video, and I'm going to pause it. All right, this is not high quality video, so I apologize for that. I'm going to pause it here again. So here we have some LEDs. These are just very cheap white LED lights to represent headlights. You'll notice on the dashboard there's another sensor. This is a temperature sensor. And over here, it may not be as obvious, but there's a servo motor with a little piece of plastic to represent, let's say, a window in your car, okay? All right, so I'm going to play that again. So the doggie's inside the car knows the doggie's there, and now I'm going to heat up this temperature sensor inside the car, simulating the sun in the parking lot, and you'll notice that the window opened, okay? So the point here is, all right, let's open the windows of the car to try to get some airflow through there to decrease the temperature buildup from the greenhouse effect. There's some rich science in this activity as well. All right, so now what's happening here? Well, the car is saying, okay, the dog's inside, the car is heating up, I need to do something. The LEDs are lighting up. You can't hear it in the video, but there's a speaker on the Innovator that's honking the horn. The windows are opening. The car is trying to let passers-by know that, hey, there's someone in the car is in trouble. Now, what I did here is, you may have missed it, but I took the doggie out, and now I'm still heating the car up. And what should happen is nothing. I don't want my car going off in the middle of the parking lot if there's no reason for that to happen. And so the car is smart enough to know that if the dog is in danger or not, or if the dog's even present. So that's that project. There are a lot of variations of that project that the kids can do. And then the next project, and I apologize, I'm running kind of fast here. but I want to make sure I show you guys this before I run out of time. This one's called the Smart Irrigation System. It's got a bunch of different names, but the basics of this one is that let's say you're in a drought-prone area, but you happen to have to raise your own food, and you want to use what little bit of water resources you have as efficiently as you can, while also getting the best yield of plant food that you can. So you have to figure out what that math is and make that happen. So I'll play this video for you and sort of narrate over it. Same thing, you've got a TI-Innovator Hub. Now, the only variation here is I've got a little thing called a MOSFET. It's just a little transistor hooked up to a battery pack. This one uses a pump, which requires more power than the handheld's able to provide. That little fork-looking thing I just held up was a soil moisture sensor. Right here in the picture is a light sensor, so it picks up the light from the environment. And then you'll see, I paused it, there's a little trickle irrigation system. You can see the water coming out of it. I paused it right at the right moment there. And this is just a fake garden that we have. Obviously, you'd want your kids to maybe use some real plants, or they can use props as well. It's up to you. But I'm going to show you how the system works. So now what I'm doing now is I'm covering up the light sensor. The sun has gone down. This is a good time to water, right when the sun goes down. And so I cover up the light sensor. You'll see that the irrigation system's on. Now, but I also wet my fingers and I wet the soil moisture sensor. So this is another feedback and control system. So here are the conditions. The sun is down, I want to water, but if I water the garden all night, it's not a good use of water. So I have a soil moisture sensor that says, okay, so much percentage of moisture, I want the system to shut off. And that's what I showed you. So I wet my fingers, I grabbed the soil moisture sensor, and you'll notice that the water shut off. And so that's what's happening with the smart irrigation system, okay? All right, now there are two other projects that I want to talk about. So you're familiar with the pet car alarm. I can send you this document if this is something you want. I can send that to you. And yeah, I want Stacy to talk about this a little bit too. So Stacy, anytime you want to chime in, that's fine. But so before you do the pet car alarm project or the smart irrigation system, one project that's probably about a half a day maybe in a summer camp, or maybe about 2 or 3 one-hour sessions if you're doing like a before school or after school camp, or even an after exam camp. This digital mood ring is a hoot. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So those of you with a little gray in your hair, me included, may remember the mood rings back in the day where you put on this little plastic thing, and then the ring itself would change colors based on your body temperature. But then there's kind of like an index that says, hey, you're romantic, or you're mean, or whatever the emotion was. Well, this project challenges kids to make one of these exact same kinds of things. Actually, I think I already had it pulled up. Let me get over here. Yeah. Dang it. Hang on, guys. Sorry. I had a little self-inflicted technical difficulties here. Here it is. Okay. Mood ring for the 84. We also have it for the Inspire. But basically, the way this works is you're going to have the kids use the red, green, blue LED that's already part of the TI-Innovator. It's built in. It comes with the Innovator. It's a little LED that you can use to color mix light. And so you can have the kids make any color of light they want, just about, using this red, green, blue LED. And so here's some background information. Yeah, there's a little mood chart. You can have them, you can use this to challenge them to come up with all of these colors. You can have them have the calculator report back to say what the emotion is as they reach a particular temperature. And so the way this works is the kids have a temperature sensor, just like the pet car alarm. And as it heats up, they're assigned to make the LED change colors based on temperature thresholds. And so they put a little pipe cleaner around the temperature sensor, and voila, they have a mood ring It's just this time the Innovator Hub is actually your mood ring. So, so pretty cool stuff. You can download all these resources, and I can send you the document for this. Now, right now, the T-Cube European website allows us to upload content right away. And so we have 4 of these projects available on this website. You can just go to the website. You can download all the background documents. This is all free of charge, and it has a PowerPoint, it has a Word document, the actual code itself is here, so example code, so you can kind of figure out how it works, or you can download it all in a zip bundle. Now, this is available for the mood ring. Eventually, these will be on the US TI website, but we're still going through the process of editing. These documents are still a little bit raw, but they are available, so you can get those ready for the summer if that's what you want to do. This is the pet car alarm version, and we also have another one. So I can find this whole thing's my way here. For the smart irrigation system. Oh, this one is the newest one, and so I talked about the rover before. This one's really cool, and this is a great introduction project. We call it the On-Ramp to Robotics Unit 1 because it implies there's another unit that's going to come out. With Mars Rover Challenge. Now, again, same thing. This stuff's available on our website. What I love about this one is the kids are programming a robot to navigate around a poster that we provide right here of the Olympus Mons. It's actually the tallest mountain in the solar system, so how cool is that? It's on Mars, and it's about twice the size of Mount Everest. But anyway, the kids have to navigate a course around that using coding, and then there's a little competition that they have with one another. There's also some nice math that's available in this one as well, and you can download the files to check that out. But this one's really slick. It's our newest one. Now, I will caution you, the drive mat, it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to download just because it's a large image file. And we recommend you go to like a FedEx or Kinko's, or if you have a big printer at your school, you can print out, it's about a 36-inch by 36-inch poster. Another option is if you contact me, we're making a few of these that we can loan out, we can send to you to try it out with your kids as well. So that's possible. And then there's, of course, a way to do this without the poster. So, you know, you can check out the materials there. Okay, so I wanted to make sure you're aware of those projects. They're on that website. The links for those projects and the document that describes each of them is here. My email address, Mike, are we going to show that, or do you want me to just show it now?
Why don't you go ahead and show it now if you don't mind, Eric?
Let's put it right down here. I can send this document to you if you want it. But my email address is earcher, E-A-R-C-H-E-R, @ti.com. And if you email me, I'll make sure you have access to all of these awesome projects. So, so please take advantage of that. We're going to keep adding more and more projects. We're working on a couple of new ones that are pretty cool. I think you'll benefit from those. Hey, Stacy, you want to talk a little bit about that smart irrigation, what your plans are for that?
Yeah, so my kids want to do 2 things. We have an aquarium in the classroom, and they want to try to regulate the flow of the water based on pH. So I bought a little pH adapter that we're going to add to the hub and try to program it, a learning tool. And then they just want to, not that the pH of the water has a whole lot to do with the flow of the water, but they just want to try that. And then with the actual smart irrigation water project, I am going to take it kind of piece by piece. I'm going to actually divide the students up, and we're going to, we actually picked up some, so our school is built basically in the middle of, I don't know, 6 different sugarcane farmers' fields. If you know anything about sugarcane, it is not a great crop for soil and controlling soil moisture. it runs off a lot, and we actually have a lot of flooding, even with a minimal rainstorm right around the school because of all the sugarcane. So one thing we wanted to do was to try somehow to mimic a sugarcane plant in the same soil and mimic this project. But instead of it not necessarily being a drought, just based on the area around Southside High School, could we come up with an irrigation system that's best for sugarcane farmers and or the school? So again, a real world problem in our area, but applicable to the students and using this type of technology.
I tell you, Stacy, thanks for bringing that up, because the water quality is a big deal around the world. You know, having drinkable water is related to the pH component you're talking about. And something else that's going to be coming out pretty soon is what we're calling the sensor link, and this is basically a device that's going to be able to interface Vernier sensors to the Innovator Hub. And that's how Stacy's going to take advantage of that. So that'll be coming out pretty soon. And the other thing I wanted to mention was just keep coming back to our website. Email me, email Stacy, and we'll keep you up to date on new projects that come out that are available. If you have any questions about Innovator, you can also email me. I'm your point of contact, and I can answer questions for you. We do have a limited amount of kits, pet car alarm kits and smart water kits. If you want to try it before you invest the time and energy, and you've already been using graphing calculators, obviously, because you're on this webinar, let me know, and if we have some available, I can send you one and kind of walk you through it. To see if you want to do it as a camp or a club with your kids. So just, you have my email address, earcher@ti.com. All right. Mike, you ready to take over?
Yeah, sure. Feel free to stop sharing and just give me control back.
All right, let's see if I can make this happen here. All right, almost there. Perfect.
Perfect. So thanks so much, Eric and Stacy. As we begin to wrap things up tonight, if you have any last-minute questions, try to get those asked. I know they'll do their best. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I know they'll try to get those questions answered. When you leave the webinar tonight, a brief survey will automatically appear in your browser. Your feedback really guides us as we plan future online events. And we hope we really listen to your thoughts. So if there's something that you're really looking forward to, you think that we need to do more of, feel free to let us know. We definitely will take that into consideration. To receive a certificate of attendance, go ahead and click that link in the chat window. Also listed is a link for the documents that were used by Eric and Stacy tonight. If those links aren't working for you for one reason or another, hang tight. You'll automatically get a follow-up email in a couple of days, and that follow-up email will contain a link to the recording as well as a link to the certificate and the documents as well. And if you're watching this on demand, go ahead and just copy that link into your favorite browser to receive your certificate. When you leave the webinar, if you have any further questions, feel free to, again, direct them to Eric as he's your point of contact. If they're not specific to maybe Innovator, then maybe just give us a call at 1-800-TI-CARES or send us an email at ti-cares@ti.com. So thanks so much, Eric and Stacy, for everything you shared tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Absolutely.
you. I saw a lot of stuff in the chat window. I have lots of ideas now. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks again, everyone. We hope to see you back online next week. Have a great night.